Right. So we're looking at how humans, what impact we have on the environment. It's a bittersweet sort of a thing happening when you think about how we have to deal with the environment, because one of the things that is happening is that our population may be growing, and as we have a growth in population, then there's a need for us to have more resources. And I can just give you a prime example. Even when you look in Portmore, you recognize that they have managed to, create more housing schemes because more people need places to live. Not true?
Yes, sir.
And so while we would have taken those land per se to make houses for human beings, as I have said in our previous class, we're basically venturing into the space of other organisms. And usually we tend to, while it is out of as I said, bittersweet, it's a good thing for persons to be able to own their own home. But at the same time, we do need green spaces. We do need areas that are not, you know, touched based on human activity. We want them to stay preserved so that whatever organisms, some of them are, unique to to our country, we should ensure that we preserve them. So for today, we're going to be examining how humans impact the environment. So, as I said before, there's a trade off. Humans have both a positive and a negative impact on the environment. And the main reason for the negative impact, as I said, we have now had a increase in, human population. And so with that increase is, take for example again, you have a household of only you and your mother and your father. If they so happen to invite family over for a month or over the summer holiday to come, of course you're going to can't cook that same maybe 1 pound of flour, to feed everybody. Probably you now have to cook two. The 1 pound of chicken won't be able to do for everyone. You're going to have to need two. If you have six more persons coming and you only had two beds, probably you're going to need more areas for persons to sleep. There's going to be definitely an increase in the amount of water usage because you now have more persons taking a bath, using the bathroom for other activities, washing face, brushing their teeth. Those are going to be increased, and it's the same concept, right? 1 second. So as I said, if you have that increase in persons in the home, then you're going to need more food. And even right here it says there's now a demand for natural resources. You're going to need more energy, more space, more water, more food. So with that, we there's no easy solution, and every solution has both a plus and a negative consequences, right? So the trade-off, when a solution has both negative and positive consequences, a consequence is something that naturally follows from an action, and consequences can be both positive and negative. So finite resources that will eventually, run out. We have interrelationships. The earth has a limited resource to support life, and the increase in human population is depleting those resources. And You normally hear talks, some scientists say, or persons in higher places may think that we need to get rid of some of the people them on the earth. And we often see, conspiracy theorists and other persons talk about even COVID, say that COVID was a means of, wiping out people. But we don't know. So pollution decreases the amount of oxygen in the air. And again, while we are there and we need to produce, we need to make things, persons do things to get comfort in their home. So even for you using this means what you're on, whether it's a tablet, a phone, or a computer, you would have basically been using energy from JPS. JPS is basically burning fossil fuel to generate that, to get that energy from chemical to electrical. And the off spin of that is for the concept of carbon dioxide being given off. So while you are able to use your devices, while you'll be able to turn on your TV and watch a nice show, the thing about that, you're adding to the pollution, you're adding to the decrease in oxygen. When we go and clean out our area, the concept of the forest, where the trees are responsible to take away this carbon dioxide or give out oxygen. And so when we have our area, we need to build our houses and we remove those trees, then of course you are limiting the amount of oxygen that is in the air. Yeah? True?
Yes, sir.
So renewable versus non-renewable resources. So renewable resources are resources that are being replaced faster than we can use it up. So if you have a resource that while you use it, you are able, it is able to replenish itself. So solar, radiation, wood, those things are considered to be renewable resources. While non-renewable resources, something being used faster than it can be replaced, example, oil, coal, and natural gas. Those are considered to be non-renewable resources. So say for example, again, it is a resource. So when you're using that resource, it is able to replenish itself. So you really don't have a situation where it is in scarcity, if you want to use a word. So as you use the resource is actually being replenished. So take for example, so the sun. If you have solar on your house top, as you use that during the day, as you use the sunlight, I mean, you'll never drain all of the energy from the sun. By the next day, you still have sunlight. So those type of resources, they replenish themselves more than or faster than how they are being used by us. But when on the flip side, you take something like oil, crude oil, and over the years, we said that we have had development and we have increase in technology and all of that. So we are putting more emphasis. We have manufacturing happening. We never used to have so much companies that are utilizing the oil reserve that we have. And so oil, unlike the sun or a tree, it takes millions and millions of years to be formed. So while you cut down a tree, yes, if you plant it back unless you're really doing some high level of deforestation, and you can see this happening maybe in your community. When they do the debushing, every year you have to do some form of level of debushing because the plants are going to be growing back. Every year you have to cut your grass. I mean, probably even every month. So at the end of the day, when you look at oil, the time for it to replenish itself is too long, and so it is a non-renewable resources. If you really follow, you can actually have a run out because it's not being replenished fast enough. So I hope that kind of let it be more clearer.
Sir, excuse me, sir. So replenish mean like it's reserved, whether reserved or not?
Replenish means after you use it, it come back.
Okay. Alright, I understand now.
So as you use up the oil, really and truly, it takes some while for this oil to break down, for the fossils to break down and form this oil. Millions and millions and millions of years. You won't live to see that formation of that oil. So the amount of oil where you use. So we're basically using it more than how it is being replenished in nature. And that's where the problem come in. So these non-renewable resources, we have to be careful. And there's this word that we have to use, sustainability. And a lot of times persons just think for themselves. Where as a young person, maybe you'll be saying that, hey, me need to, plug in my phone. You have the TV on, you have the radio on, you have your laptop, fan a spin, different device where you don't really have pay focus, 15 lights in the house on during at 12 o'clock. So all of this you may look at it and say, but hey, electricity that, but remember electricity is coming from this oil. And so that's one of the reasons why we say if we can conserve, when you turn off your light and you buy the energy saving bulbs and all of that, you're adding to conservation, which means like you have a little bit of money for last you for the month. You can't just go and spend off everything because in the future you won't have any money for buying a little food when you go to school. It's the same thing. So this oil, the oil reserve, we have to conserve it and utilize it properly because at the end of the month, yes, you will get back some money, but suppose you don't get any in time, you're going to starve. So we have to be able to manage the human activities. What you're seeing in this. What is happening right here?
Sir, I'm seeing the same thing but renewable and non-renewable, if that is the case.
No, I'm saying, so which slide are you seeing?
Renewable and non-renewable.
See the slide. Even before you read what is happening, what you get from what is happening in just them say a picture is worth 1,000 words. What you get from what you're seeing right here.
Sir, they're cutting down the trees or something like that, causing deforestation, which cause harmful to the animals that could leave their habitat.
Wonderful. So we know again, and I will keep on saying the bittersweet. We need lumber, we need the board. That's how we get a lot of byproducts. A lot of byproducts come from trees. But at the same time, when we go into these areas and we do the cutting down of the trees, we are basically disrupting the ecosystem. We spoke about that in the previous classes, where some of these organisms, a tree is actually their habitat. A bird probably have a nest in a tree. There's other organism, a lizard, or some other organisms that are using a tree for its habitat. And when you destroy, imagine somebody coming and, bulldozing down your house and just take it up and gone. So, and we did speak about as well, every organism have their role. They have their purpose in the ecosystem. And so while we remove this tree and we basically see something else is happening in the environment, and we say, oh, what could have caused this? Sometimes it's due to the fact that you have destroyed the habitat of an organism who used to maintain certain things in that ecosystem. So the damage to the ecosystem may even be permanent because you remove all these trees and sometimes we don't do the replanting of the trees. Yeah? So one of the human activities, deforestation. So when we look at ways human adversely influence ecosystem, so population growth, too many people using limited resources, right? So as our population grow, and I spoke about the comparison, your mother and your father alone live, you buy your 1 pound of rice that could cook that meal. If you invite over extended family, your grandparents, couple cousin, yeah, you're going to have an increase in the person in the household. So no longer can that 1 pound of rice serve for everybody. Or even if it's served, it's going to be a less on a particular person, which may even lead to them having some form of deficiency because they're not getting enough food. Overconsumption,
Excuse me, sir, you on the
yeah,
other side? You on the other side?
yes.
Oh, I can't see it.
So as we were discussing, we said overconsumption. If you're just coming in, we're looking at how human affects the, impact the environment. So industrialized societies, as we said, we started to see industrialized revolution. We start make cars and all sort of other technology to make our lives easier. And we say using more resources per person from our planet than people from poor nations. And so some countries, as you know, some countries, persons were saying, China and those areas are like they're living in 2030. You can be in the park and you can basically take out your phone. Order, say for example, it was KFC, order the KFC, and the drone just come and just drop the KFC right at one spot, right there in the park. You open up the place and you collect, you pay via whatever. So that's where they're at, you know. Amazon do this whole drone delivery, and we have those, self-driven cars and all of that. Things that when I was younger would just be in shows. Now we're seeing everything playing out. So advancing in technologies, we introduce technology without knowing how it will influence the environment at times. And we've seen that in the past where, human beings had to go and ban certain things that they created, like CFCs, chlorofluorocarbon, that we put in you remember, well, you wouldn't know, but we used to have some long time refrigerator, yeah, and when we turn on those refrigerator, it would release certain chemicals into the atmosphere that will deplete the ozone layer, and that is the layer that protects us from the harmful rays of the sun, yeah. And then we realize that that is what is causing it. And so there was this ban, so persons stopped using that. So the newer refrigerators are better, but at the same time, better in a particular way. We don't know. Maybe later on, maybe your son and daughter, or your the daughter of your daughter to come will have some form of serious implication with the technologies that we have now. Even something like a cell phone, there's no real evidence that it will cause anything, but you never know. Maybe in the years to come, you hear say it cause cancer, it do this, it do that. So we're advancing in technology, and we introduce these things sometimes without the knowledge of how it will really affect the environment. Because one other thing what we do, and we soon get into that, is the waste. The waste that we produce, yeah, is a problem. So direct harvesting a large loss of rainforest and its biodiversity. Now, biodiversity speaks to the concept of the different life forms, how rich, we're still finding out different species that are living in an area, how diverse we are, right, is better for us in terms of not only having one set of organism living in an area. So places like the rainforest, and we see sometimes where forest fires happen because of persons who probably go camping again, our activity, we are very destructive. Pollution. Pollution has had many adverse influences on air, water, and land. And there are some communities, even though I spoke about China, there are probably some areas in China that the air is so thick and smog and pollution that you can't really reside there. So while we advance in these technology, our population, our activities, we're releasing things into the environment. So atmospheric changes. We talk about the greenhouse gases. One of the popular greenhouse gas is carbon dioxide. Methane is another greenhouse gas. Now, the greenhouse effect, when we talk about the burning of fossil fuel and the depletion of our ozone layer, the greenhouse effect is something that is positive. It is what keeps the earth warm. But what's the problem? When we advance in technology and we basically cut down the trees that would have removed the carbon, you know what the carbon do? The carbon will trap the sunlight. So when the sunlight enters our atmosphere, most of it should be reflected back into space. But these greenhouse gases act as a blanket and trap. You ever under your blanket, when your time cold and you're under the blanket, it make you feel warm. So imagine that gas over the earth, it's going to trap the carbon dioxide. Well, it's going to trap the heat from the sun that is supposed to reflect back into space. And so the earth will get warmer than it should. And scientists have been indicating that, the summers are getting hotter and all of that. And with that, you create problems because when that happens, you have more frequent hurricanes. You have the ice caps in the colder region starts to melt, causing the sea level to rise. Temperatures increase. Persons were actually dying, from heat stroke. When the sun is so hot out there, persons overseas will tell you that they can't go outside until the sun go down because the temperature is so hot. Endangered species are threatened to extinction due to habitat destruction. We did say it. So when we come and we cut down the tree, we go make paper, we cut down the tree, we go make plywood so we can use it to make our houses. We cut down the tree to make our nice night table or a bed, chest of drawers, everything where we have board this, board that. and it looks lovely in our homes. But guess what? We had to destroy something home to get that in our home. And that is a problem. Because I started out by saying the bittersweet. Bittersweet. So yes, you can sit down and you're there on your bed and you kick up your foot, and while an organism out there that would have used that branch to house their nest for a group of birds gone. Yeah? We're seeing a situation in Jamaica right now. I don't know how much are you seeing these frogs in your community. The tree frog, the Cuban frog. We've heard about the lionfish. We heard about those? We ever heard about the lionfish? So we were talking about the invasive species. What happens sometimes when the ships dock from other areas? That ballast water, that water that they use, to keep the ship afloat and all of that to help with up thrust and all of them little things there. When again the physics, you know about that. Sometimes and like in the case of the lionfish, the scientists suspect that's how it got into Jamaica's water. So when those cruise ships come, and again, yeah, the cruise ship are gonna bring some level of income, some foreign exchange to the country. But when they come, some of these persons may tend to bring other organisms with them, right? And these organisms are sometimes brought by persons willingly. Some of them are brought, unknowing that, it's there on their person or wherever. So like one of those species, about the mongoose, right? The
Yes,
mongoose.
sir.
So the mongoose came to Jamaica because they had issues with snakes in the sugarcane field. And so to get rid of the mongoose, sorry, to get rid of the snakes, they brought the mongoose here. But the thing about the mongoose eat off all of the snake them. When the mongoose realize no more food no there. Well, the main food and the stirring point everything. Cause they are basically they're carnivores, they're herbivores, so them eat, them can climb, them do all sorts of stuff. And so they put them at a
So
height.
them eat lizard too?
Probably. I can't tell you, and they live very long. A mongoose live for about 20 years. A mongoose can live up to being 20. So unless you see them get run over by a car or maybe a disease, nothing hunts a mongoose, because they're not from our country. And so that's where the problem comes in. So their population does explode because nothing in the food chain will feed on them to keep their population in check. So they will just a lot of birds. A lot of birds suffer because of this. Because what they will do is to just climb the tree and just eat the egg. Yeah? So a lot of birds are, becoming extinct because of these the mongoose. So the lionfish is the same concept. That fish with the spines, nothing eat it here in our waters. And so when it comes here, accidentally or purposefully, whichever way you want to think about it, it's going to have a field day. Because nothing, imagine you're in our area and nothing not there to eat your population. Yeah? So they are known as invasive species, aka exotic species. And so they come and they take over from the native. So when they take over from the native, or they provide this. Sometimes they have this concept of being able to, maneuver. They can deal with certain. Them have special capabilities. As I said, the mongoose can climb. Them are good climber. So you will see them, and them can stand up on them 2 foot and look. You ever pass one of them do that? Them stand up and just look for you. Them fast. Them living at the earth. Them go under places. So they are very. Them not come from the area. So them good. They are bad because they can outcompete the native animals, causing them to go extinct. So all of the other animals that would have feed on other organisms, the mongoose just come and just said so, and they eat up all of them food. And so those organisms that are native to Jamaica suffer. Yeah? And as we said before, some of them will have better tools to equip them to deal. So imagine, it's like, say for example, you were supposed to get some money if you win a race. Imagine you run with Usain Bolt every time. You know you're not getting no money, not true? Or who is the top runner now? Who's the fastest man them say now?
Sir, I'm not sure.
Alright, so whoever it is, you know you wouldn't be able. So it's like you have no match because they have the speed. So that's how some organisms are when it comes down to the mongoose. They can't compete with their agility, their capabilities of smelling, um, digging. Them have some powerful claws and them stuff there where them can use. Get into areas them can, you know, they're so sneaking. And persons who grow chickens suffer sometimes because of them. Yeah? Just go in and kill off everybody. Sometimes they lack predators, like I said, the mongoose, and their population increase to high levels. Then they eat all the food and native species go extinct. Yeah? They tend to disrupt the natural food web that has been there for many years. So if you're not careful, as I said before, some of these birds that we would have had native in Jamaica, they are going or have gone extinct because of the mongoose, because them come and just ravish. Here's an example. Exotic species having native effects include rabbits imported into Australia. These exotic species won the competition with many native herbivores, right? They just kill them off. See another one here, the snake, and this is limited to, we spoke about those in Jamaica. We spoke about the lionfish. We spoke about the mongoose. There's also the Cuban frog right now that is, creating havoc in some communities because, again, they're not from Jamaica. They just reproduce and just, we not even have enough studies done yet to find out if they eat anything because I haven't seen a lot of documentation yet, any studies to see their impact on what they're doing in our environment. So the snakehead fish, native to Asia and tropical Africa, imported as an aquarium pet. So again, and you know how
So why
far.
are they keeping those fish as pet? Them belong in the wild.
So again, I saw there's this gentleman on TikTok that does this. This is the thing that he says. Why the whites wander, or something along that line. And he always focus on why the white people them love do some things. So why would you look on this? Why would you want this as a pet? Yeah. So released into the wild, it breathes air. Listen to this. Listen, it can crawl out of water for miles. to find the next water source. This is no one normal fish. So with it be go in a one pan and eat off every fish. And you're telling me that this fish can come out of the water. Come out of the water, crawl miles till it reach an next pan and do the same damage. So it's not a situation where it's now limited. And again, we say that their ability to be so effective is that they may have some form of modification that allow them to surpass the other fish. Because no other fish a crawl out of water and a crawl for miles. So how you going to compete with this fish? So him come in your water, eat off everything, crawl out. Even if him not eat you, him crawl out. So him come, eat all of your food source is depleted, you're going to die. Find another area, do the same. So we get the whole thing about invasive species. So huge predator and outcompete other native fish. So and look at this, it reproduces very quickly. So not predators, so many not a lot of them will survive, and they are now illegal to own. But you know how white people say, or persons. If you catch one in the wild, you must report it to the DEC. And these are just like how we have our NEPA. Yeah. They have their, their body that deals with these things. Like how we're not supposed to capture the crocodile and all of that in Jamaica. Three major environmental problems include, we're going to be looking at these: global warming, acid precipitation, what we call acid rain, and ozone depletion. So acid precipitation, and it's looking at it from a US point of view, but we can also talk about it in a Jamaican point of view. So most acid rain in New York State is caused by sulfur dioxide, right? And if you never know, that's why some companies like Shell, yeah, they promote, or Rubies, they will be promoting their low sulfur. If you talk about that when they're selling, maybe you're not a driver, but one of the things that they will do in terms of their commercial, they know that if you're environmentally friendly, when you hear low sulfur, it produces less sulfur, which means less sulfur dioxide. So the two main gases that contribute to acid precipitation, acid rain, is sulfur dioxide and nitrogen dioxide. And they are components in fuel. Now, not every gas station takes the time out to remove these, because they can remove the sulfur before you sell it to the consumers, right? But you have to go through another process. And so it will cost more money. And that's why their fuel will cost more, because they have removed the sulfur from the fuel. But it's better for the environment. And so if you're really environmentally friendly, you will be able to support this move and buy that fuel. Even though it's more expensive, it's more environmentally friendly. But let's talk about what really happens. We know that water vapor goes into the atmosphere. And this is a little chemistry right here. Now, sulfur dioxide, when it reacts with the water vapor, it's going to form an acid. And that's why we get that acid precipitation. Same thing what we call acid rain. So now, what are the implications of this acid rain? Imagine this rain falling into a pond. The pond has organisms inside of it. The water will become more acidic. So usually, because the water cycle replenish these things, so water leaving from the pond will evaporate, go into the atmosphere. But if you know burn these gases based on the fuel that you're consuming, and these gases are being released, when they go up into the atmosphere, they're going to react with the water vapor and fall as acid rain. So it can affect human beings. A matter of fact, again, if you know anything about a little bit of chemistry, some of these ingredients, a matter of fact, one of the major ingredients in our things that we use to build houses, cement, is a base. So when this acid react with the base, it's going to cause it to break down. So you have the deterioration of buildings happening. You have the deterioration of statues, sculptures, all of those things that we create with the cement and other limestone area, right? Because limestone is also a base. So what you find is that the acid from the rain will deteriorate these buildings, these areas. Yeah? So some problems associated with the precipitation, the acid precipitation. So streams and lakes become more acidic. And as we said, killing frogs, killing fish, and other life. Damage forests. So even the plants, when this rain fall on the leaves, it may damage if the plant is not sturdy enough to withstand. And as we said, it deteriorates buildings. Yeah? Right, Jada? Jada there? Oh, Jada not there again. Jada, get up and gone.
Yes, sir. No, sir, I'm still there.
Shan.
Yes, sir.
So the acid rain will fall, kill the frog, kill the fish, and there's implication. So again, sometimes it's just a chain of events. Yeah? This little story that they always talk, where persons talk about when I think the farmer had his wife and the snake bite the wife or something like that. And the snake go inform the person, them say, say something to the farmer wife, and them say, no, that is none of our business. And the cow there and the cow say, yo, no can go on. We don't have to cater about that. But as the wife got sicker, the farmer had to kill the cow to get money for pay for her or something. So while he was there saying that it's none of his. So while we are there saying that, yeah, the frog them not on a purpose. Frogs are good indicators. A matter of fact, once you're not seeing these frogs in your environment, something is wrong. You didn't know that? We're talking about the Jamaican frog them now. We're not talking about the invasive
No,
one.
sir.
So frogs are considered to be indicator species. So if you have an area that frogs are not residing in, something may be wrong in that area. Because frogs, we use them as that species. The other one that we use to like that is the same one we call crayfish. Yeah. So if you don't see crayfish in a water, apart from maybe it not being suitable like their natural habitat, but if that water was supposed to be good enough for them and you're not seeing them, then something may be wrong with the water, something wrong with the environment. So, just like when maybe it's going to rain and you watch and you see the ants them take with themselves or go carry stuff, and we say, yeah, rain are gonna fall. So these are good indicator species. Once there's some pollution in the water, butterflies are next indicators. So if you're not seeing butterfly in your environment, the car batteries will come out. I will sometimes put them around our house.
So I'm trying to talk with I don't know much about car really.
So you don't know the car battery them.
Yeah, I know the car battery them.
You
But
never
I
see
know
people
them.
just take them out and put them in our area, or even the oil. Just throw
No.
then change the oil and then just throw you out there. in the soil. What happened to the mechanic will live down the road there? Because you always have one mechanic will live down the road. So things like that, the butterfly will need. Okay? So what can we do? As we said, we can burn low sulfur coal. We can use alternative energy sources such as solar panel for electricity and hot water heaters. We can heat our house with geothermal wells. And that is something we do. That's more practice overseas. So they drill deep into the earth to release the heat naturally created. So normally you have a little well under your house. So, you get that, you acquire that heat. See there? And we make use of it. Just excuse me a second. Now, global warming. I kind of touched on it and we spoke about it. So burning fossil fuels and other pollution increases the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So fossil fuels include gasoline, coal, and oil. And it's going to be able to increase the Earth's temperature. As I said before, carbon dioxide is also known as a greenhouse gas. And the increase in the level of carbon dioxide and other gases is not allowing infrared or solar heat radiation to escape the planet back into space. And this is what is causing our planet to get warmer and warmer. So while the sun energy comes onto the earth, most of it is supposed to reflect back into space. But the greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide traps. And we keep on increasing our activities. We're burning more. We're doing a lot more in terms of technology, right? And so we're cutting down the very same trees, because that's a very critical point about it as well. The trees utilize the carbon dioxide for photosynthesis. That's how they make the food. But one of the earlier slides we saw where the trees were being, cut, they were cut down. The consequences of global warming: rising in sea levels and coastal flooding. And we see a lot of that happening in Jamaica, where some persons will tell you, like back in the day, the coastline where over by Helsha, it never used to be so close. And over the years, we have erosion happening. Yeah. Also, certain countries that are flat will basically, in the long run, might be able to be covered by water. So like your Cayman, yeah? Change in rain pattern results in droughts and crop failures. So we have longer droughts. Even some cases, you might see where you used to have a lot of rainfall. You don't have an ounce of rain happening in that area or in that time span. We have increase in insect disease in regions, because you might have also flooding. And one of the things that I said to persons is that when we tend to increase the temperature, when the temperature of the earth increases, what it will do is force us. So what you think persons start to do? Incorporate more AC and those things in their building. So that allows for a better, you know, communicable diseases. So a simple flu. When you have proper ventilation, air flow through the place. But because you try to get rid of the heat, and so you have to go put in certain measures in place to hold the coolness. So when you do that now, everybody's on the inside, and it creates a problem. Because if one person gets sick, everybody more than likely will get sick, because they know how the air condition work. It recycles the air. Yeah? So that's a problem. So what can be done? Decrease the use of fossil fuels, including electricity. Use alternative forms of energy such as solar panels. Carpool to work. Yeah? So your neighbor go the same place or in the area. And a lot of people may not work in Jamaica, because we both don't it, Smith? Smith gone again. So instead of you're going to a movie with friends and everybody, live in the same area, and everybody drive them car. Instead, we can just drive one vehicle and, carpool. That's what it means. Ozone depletion. So ozone is another form of oxygen. So you breathe O2, ozone is O3. You do not breathe this, so you don't breathe that sort of oxygen. Ozone decreases the amount of solar radiation that reaches the earth from the sun. We call it the UV, the ultraviolet rays. Seen it right here? So what you find is that there was a hole being created right over in Antarctica, because of the concept of things that we've been using. And I spoke about it earlier. The use of the CFCs, the chlorofluorocarbons, lowers ozone by breaking up the O3. So it really reacts with the ozone, and it causes it to deplete. So we use the CFC in some of the aerosol cans. And of course, as I said before, it is not something that is being done anymore on a large scale, because we recognize, and the countries have come into play and put a ban on it. Yeah? They're also, released from some refrigerators and air conditioning systems. And what you find is that if these ultraviolet rays start to come onto the earth, you're going to get things such as skin cancer and cataracts. So you have to be careful not to allow yourself to use these products. So some persons who are environmentally friendly know that they don't use these items or contain. So they look on the label and see if, it produces CFC. Go ahead.
So, sir, this is also in like the products that Jamaican use for skin bleaching. That's why some of them have skin cancer.
No, man. No. What we're saying is that the skin cancer you catch, or you'll be affected by, is due to the rays of the sun. So the sun give off these rays, right? But what you find is that the ozone, let me go back, the ozone acts like a filter for the earth. So it would be filtering out this ultraviolet rays. So when you feel the sun on your skin, it's not the ultraviolet rays. So we are saying that if you now have a depletion in this ozone layer, When you feel that ultraviolet rays coming through, it's so intense that it can cause you to have skin cancer. So that's what we're saying. So it's not saying that we're rubbing on something on us. That's a different case now when them do that. And one of the things that why that will lead is because again, you're reducing the melanin in your skin to lighten it, which helps to protect you. So your skin also helps to protect you from the ultraviolet rays. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the fact that the ozone layer, once it is depleted, these ultraviolet direct, yeah, coming onto your skin. So we said that what you find is that CFC that we release from our factories, from our home, we basically is really sending up these chemicals that will react with the ozone, causing it to break down. And when it breaks down, it now invites the ultraviolet rays into the earth. So we don't have that little filter anymore. Put it this way. You ever in a car that don't have any tint? Miss Smith?
Sir, I'm not sure what is that.
The tint. You never see the tint on the vehicle. That
No,
dark, that dark thing that they put on the vehicle. Go ahead.
no.
So when you look on the glass and the glass look clear.
Sir, could you only say it's a heat bad,
So I want
or is the layer of a skin making it thin?
so I'm saying to you though, when you look at the bus, you take the bus, you don't take any of the yellow bus them.
Yes, sir.
So when you look at those bus windows, they're usually tinted, that dark appearance that you see.
Oh, no, I
Yes.
understand.
So we're saying, imagine the earth, that tint, we're using it to say that that's the ozone layer. So imagine the glass now being clear. All of that sunlight are coming on you. So while we know about, we should be seen in the vehicle because of security reasons, but the tint in terms of the heat really helps. So that's what the ozone is doing. It's filtering out those ultraviolet rays before it reaches us. So you can sit comfortable at the window, even at the 12 o'clock, once the car is tinted, and you're good. But you wouldn't try that if the car isn't tinted and you're there right at the window. It's coming like the sun is actually touching you. Yeah? So that's how the concept of the ozone. So actions being taken by humans to reduce or repair damage to the environment include so recycling waste, conserving available resources, right? Using cleaner resources. And we can relate to all of these, not true? Protection of habitats and endangered species. Use of biological control instead of the pesticides and herbicides. Because these very same pesticide and herbicides, they go into the environment, go into the water. So while the farmers need to, kill those pests that are eating your callaloo or your pak choy that you need, the spin-off is that that very same pesticide can get into the water and it can go and kill off the fish. And again, you have a problem right there. Depletion of biodiversity. So we, as I said before, bittersweet. Farming native plants. So cocoa in the rainforest. Planting trees to replace those that we cut down. So reforestation, or we can have afforestation. You're planting a tree where it didn't exist. Rotating crops or planting cover crops to reduce soil loss. Things like that, very important. And of course, passing laws. And while some big shot companies will say, you know what, me spend the money, because some of them do that. Because they have the money, even though there's a cap, you have different bodies that help us to maintain order. So different organizations. So you have the Land of the Sea, you have the Kyoto Protocol that deal with the air and how much emission. So they will check how much emission a company gives off in the atmosphere. And if they're over the limit, them get a sanction. Yeah? And they have to pay some money. But again, as I said before, some of these companies are $1 million companies, and so them just take it as nothing for just pay off that and just continue or release harmful things. Even going back to the same health show, some of these organizations, some of these establishments that are on the beach along the area, they're not disposing of those wastes properly. Some of them are just releasing it into the sea. And that will create problem because we see where these things cause the fish to die. Another thing that we see heavily, the plastic. And it so happened that, you know, we see where Mr. Trump is saying that he wants to reverse in his country. Now the plastic is very, very detrimental because plastic doesn't biodegrade that easily like another organism or product. And so it stays longer in the environment, creates problem. So the fish, other organism, sometimes even swallow. So even the very same plastic straw, we see these ending up in the rivers and the gullies, causing, you know, flooding and blockage of drain, and we complain. But the plastic bottles, the beach cleanup that they have on a yearly basis. You ever go to a beach cleanup?
No.
So these are some of the initiatives that we take. Yes, one day of the beach supposed to clean up all day. And you know, some people say, you know, one day out of the year, you don't want to clean up the beach. But at the same time, it's better than, you know, not cleaning up any at all. So banning the plastic in Jamaica, you know that they ban plastic, the bags, the black bag, the black scandal bag. If you notice the white ones that they have now, you know, it kind of biodegrades. So even when you see it, it just break down. The black scandal bag, did it for years, man. Years in the environment, just like that, and it creates problem. So what part of the food chain do you think is most affected by toxin? Is it the producer? Is it the primary consumer? Is it the secondary consumer? Is it the tertiary consumer, and why? Which one of these you think will be more affected by the toxin? Anybody want to try?
So I'm not sure.
All right. So there's a thing called biomagnification.
Sir
Uh,
Kajani said it's the producer.
So the producer, let's see, Kejani. So biomagnification. When we think about magnification, what you think is happening? When we magnify something, what we do? When we say a
So
magnify,
Tijani say get bigger.
so it gets bigger, right? So biomagnification happens and the increase in concentration of a poison that moves up the food chain. So who you think now, in terms of this, the toxin will affect more? So if the toxin is gets into the producer, a primary consumer, which is a herbivore, eat that plant, the toxin get passed on to the primary consumer. We're saying that the toxin is now magnified. So it increases its effect, its toxicity. And so as you go up, if the secondary consumer come and eat the primary consumer, more toxic to them. And that's why things in the sea, when you think about something, wrong with the sea and the fish consume it, and you might not see it affecting the fish, but you can see it affecting human beings because it would have been magnified. So many little fish eat the plants and get the toxin. Then a largemouth bass eats hundreds of little fish and get more toxin. Yeah. So the number this is a chemical that we ban as well. This chemical causes cancer. We call it DDT. And before persons know, it was used in pesticides to spray um, insects that affect plants. So if you look at this, we see the ppm, parts per million, increasing as you go up. Sorry, the food chain. So if you think that if you take this tertiary consumer now, for whatever reason, this bird, humans eat this bird. If you go and eat this bird, you're getting 13.8. Yeah? Unlike the producer that is exposed to the DDT, only getting 0.04. I hope this opens your eyes to see how what we call biomagnification will happen. And so, even if a little bit, we have to be concerned if a little bit of this harmful chemical gets into our environment because it can magnify over time as the food, as organisms are being eaten by other organisms. So by the time it reaches us as a human being, because normally we're at the top, right? You're getting more of the toxin. Seeing that?
So what is ppm?
So parts per million. So how much parts per million? So we use that to describe things like oxygen and in this case the pesticide. Because you know this is coming in form of a droplet. When they spray the pesticide come out in a mist. So it's just a unit that we use to describe or to quantify the the values of this harmful DDT. Yeah?
Okay, sir.
A human fisherman catches several bass. As we talk about, remember we talk about the single fishes that would have had consumed with already higher level toxin. He eats them all and gets even more. He may accumulate so much toxin that it causes cancer or some other disorder. And this happened actually in the Hudson River over there in US again, where they were releasing certain toxin in the company was releasing the toxin in the river, and people were eating the fish and dying. Yeah. So again, if you're not careful, you have to have in the law. So see it there, a biomagnification through food chain. So low levels, by the time it reaches us, concentration increases. See that? So again, don't take it for persons. Again, this thing about not looking at, say it not affect me. So if they must spray it on the corn, right? The corn is what is used to create the feed for the animal. The animals are what we eat. So we're seeing a mother here. So the mother will probably eat one of this to make milk for her baby. And so as she breastfeed, the toxin gets at a higher level. Yeah? What was said?
So I kind of get it. Like for example, like chicken feeding. If they spray something on it, the chicken eats it, and then they inject the chicken with some type of something, and then we are the consumer that eat the chicken, whatever was in there, also in their system. So we also get affected.
Wonderful. Much of the toxins settle in the bottom soil or sediment. So, politicians in that Hudson River case try to correct this by drenching the river, scoop out the bottom of the sediment. So the toxin was just there, and sometimes the fish, you have what we call the bottom feeders, and so they will go in and, at particular points in time, eat whatever is there. And then another larger fish come and eat that fish. And somebody comes to the river to do fishing, catch that larger fish. And so, the toxin is basically creating some problems. So this is it. Another example. So here are two persons, doing their fishing. So the concept here where these, and we would have considered them to be producers, would have been there, and they are the ones that are actually maybe getting first-hand exposure to the toxin, right? The toxin is passed on from the fish to the fish. We've seen that. And as you go, the larger circle dots is signifying how magnified the toxin is. And this is methyl mercury. And this is a very toxic chemical. Yeah? So even those organisms, the animal and the bird consuming those fish, catching them, they are now being exposed. You notice how their red dot is larger than the fish that they're eating because the toxin is being magnified. So human action often has negative consequences for the ecosystem and humans too. Here are some of the ways if it affects our ecosystem. So we said acid rain, we spoke about that already. The negative effects, how we can fix. Yeah. So acid rain is caused by just running through the sulfur dioxide and the nitrogen dioxide. And we find that in our fuel. And we say ways we can fix that is to basically, one, get alternative means. So get alternative means of energy, whether wind, solar. If you can't do that, what you can do is to, limit, because you can do further activities to the crude oil to reduce the amount of sulfur. So while it will cost more, we can do that, and it will limit the amount of sulfur dioxide and nitrogen dioxide being emitted when the oil is burnt or when the fuel is burnt. Deforestation cause negative effects. Did I speak about the negative effects of the acid rain? So just to backtrack, it would have basically caused the death of organisms that are living in a aquatic environment. It can destroy buildings. Yeah, it can cause even destruction of trees in the forest. The acid content of the rain is a problem. So deforestation cause the cutting down a tree. Humans are cut down the tree. And we use it for several purposes. Or we're clearing the land because we want the land for other uses. So even when you have the trees, you can clear it for agricultural purposes. We can clear it for housing. We can clear it to create a factory. All of that. So the negative impact is that less trees, we're destroying the home of organisms, the habitat. So we can actually cause a species to become extinct. Negative impact, soil erosion, because we know that the trees hold the soil together. The roots of it help with binding the soil. So that's another problem. Yeah. Another negative impact is global warming, because the trees are responsible to remove the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. How can we fix? Reduce deforestation. And if you do have to cut down the trees, we say plant them back. Where you don't have any trees, you can plant trees. Yes, I think some of the Chinese persons, what they're trying to do or what they have been doing is to even water some desert, and they're allowing it to replenish or grow plants, because they know that if they can cover that area with plants, it will help with the concept of carbon dioxide removal. Loss of diversity. So you have less organisms, right? And so what caused that? Different things can lead to that. The same deforestation, the same input of fertilizers or pesticides, other activities such as mining. So when we go into the field and we mine, those will cause a negative effect. When we have loss of biodiversity or diversity, we basically have a situation where not a lot of insects, not a lot of plants. The more diverse the system is, the better it is at times. How are we trying to fix that? Again, our activities, finding alternative sources, depending on what we're doing to destroy the biodiversity. So if it is actually, going down there to cut down trees, as we said, we can use other alternatives to acquire board and other ways of getting energy. Global warming cause greenhouse gases, burning fossil fuel, major cause of that. Negative impact, rising sea levels, longer droughts, stronger hurricane, more disease and pests. Those are the things. How we're trying to fix that? Recycling, carpooling, alternative use of energy. Those are some of the ways. Introduce invasive species. So when we bring other organisms as a means of biological control, like what we did with the mongoose, that can be the cause. It can be of accident. It can be purposefully because persons want pet. We saw where persons brought in the snakehead. as I said it over there in the US. The negative effect, it will outdo the native animal, causing them to become extinct. What we can do, we can put laws in so that persons, and even at our borders or entry, points of entry, you can't just go and bring one monkey coming to Jamaica because you don't know what disease that monkey have. You can't just bring a horse, right? So you have areas that will be there to check, right? To ensure they actually quarantine and to check and say, yeah, you can't bring in any other organism, just like how we can go over there with certain stuff. Industrialization is really caused by us trying to improve technology, right? Making our work easier, negative effects, more carbon dioxide being released. How can we fix or try fix that? Sometimes we just have to find ways that don't create that level. So while we have the concept of cars, we can have now, and you have to remember some persons even said at one point there was a gentleman who made a car that could run off water. So if we can find, while we know that the car is there to help us with transportation, getting from one area to the another faster than walking, than riding a animal, yeah, we can use the resources that will not emit a lot of waste or carbon dioxide back into our atmosphere. We have nuclear power. There's talk to establish a nuclear power plant even here in Jamaica. And you know, again, we have situations where persons are, you know, bittersweet about it, the applications that it will have. But of course, again, some of these will destroy the biodiversity if you're not careful and you have some form of explosion or some form of accident. It can be detrimental. Yeah. So we really need to look at other areas. Look at other areas where we can obtain other sources of power. The use of chemical fertilizers. So the use of chemical fertilizers is another thing. So man-made fertilizers, and what they will cause is a thing called eutrophication, where you have the buildup of algal bloom. You can look it up. Algal bloom, and the fertilizer, especially nitrogen-based fertilizer, what it will do is to run into a pond, and it will cause the algal bloom to explode, or the algae to explode in its population, known as algal bloom. So you see that green thing over the surface of the water. What that will do is to prevent the sunlight from getting into the aquatic, the planktons. We have our phytoplanktons, and they are not able to photosynthesize because the algal is blocking all of that sunlight. So they are blocking the sunlight, and so they are not able to photosynthesize, so they die. When they die, more things like your decomposers will start to break them down, releasing more carbon dioxide, using up all of the oxygen and depleting it. So we have more carbon dioxide, so most of the animals and other plants will eventually die. So how can you fix that? Use organic fertilizers. So fertilizers that will break down and not cause this sort of problem in the environment. Or one of the things, if you fertilize and you don't practice proper watching the weather when it will rain, because it's after a shower or rain, sometimes the fertilizer gets washed into the river or the pond. So you have to check on that. Burning fossil fuel, as we know, the cause, we burn them because of wanting to get energy. Negative effect, global warming. How we fix that? Find alternative means. And so this would have brought us to the end. So human impact, how our activities actually impact the environment negatively. So you need to know these different ways and know how you can find ways to correct